Welcome to the Ecosystem Business Summit. The topic is era of partner ecosystems, and as you know, this is the right moment in the industry for ecosystems. This is the early part of the decade of ecosystems, and what we are seeing is immense collaboration. Companies building bridges like the one behind me between companies, between sales forces across companies in service of end customers. So what have we seen actually? What we've seen is companies giving a lot more prominence to their partnering leaders. So chief partner officers, head of partnerings have emerged in companies. And what has happened, the biggest change that I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years compared to, let's say, last 10 or 15 years in partnering is that through co-sell, through processes like this, companies are actually adding significant revenue growth. Our case studies have shown greater than 20% revenue growth coming from partners through more effective co-sell motions. There you go. That's the business case. And what's really interesting about co-sell motions is that they convert at a much higher win rate. Traditionally, we've seen 1:3 conversion ratios in the standard sales cycle without a partner. When you add a co-sell partner, that win rate improves by 30%. And this has been proven time and time again, because what is happening is that you're combining influence from multiple buying centers. So somebody who's good in one domain is combining influence from another domain. And when two go to tango, there's usually a much higher win rate. And usually there's been a myth out there, which is like, hey, if I carry a partner along, my deal cycles will actually take longer to happen. I lose productivity. But in general, what we've seen is through connected, if you connect it through tools like WorkSpan, what happens is that you're collaborating at the speed of the network. You're erasing artificial boundaries. You're creating this boundaryless enterprise where security is respected, but the collaboration happens as if you're sitting next door. And that has increased productivity. So people are not shuttling stuff here and there. And we've seen collaboration actually increase the speed as opposed to the burden of carrying partnerships forward, and that giving a perception of loss of time. We have in fact documented that it shaves 9 to 14 days of an enterprise business cycle, enterprise sales cycle. And if you think about a year, and if you're doing a number of deals, that's significant value added. Net, what it nets out to is it's a much higher return on investment, up to 20 times. 6 times faster time to market for new solutions if you're not only doing co-sell but joining it with joint solutions. And ultimately, because you're working with partners in adjacent markets, in adjacent geographies where you may not be strong at, we've seen account expansions and geographic revenue expansions in adjacent markets by up to 3x. So it's a very, very strong business case why partners are leaning in, chief partner officers are leaning into co-sell as a motion. Chip pointed out to an asset earlier today. So if you're looking to build a business case, these are the stats up there. Now, if you look at how companies have been doing work, and we've been collaborating with Microsoft around their co-sell processes before. Every partner we meet is supplementing their core systems on their side with their own CRM, with Microsoft Partner Center, with spreadsheets, PowerPoints, Word docs, collaboration tools du jour. Now, if you multiply this across your entire ecosystem, what we're seeing is that disparate tools are creating a lot of issues in terms of effective and real-time collaboration between companies. And if you think of partners as an extension of your own team, this and multiple partners that do in an ecosystem, it becomes very, very tough. So when we looked at all these processes put together, it's these 4 themes consistently come out for us. One is we've seen entire pipeline, taken down from a CRM system, shared with the partner, but by mistake shared with the wrong partner. And that has happened. And these kinds of processes, as a result, companies are starting to stop downloads of entire pipelines or accounts into spreadsheets and CSV formats and say, hey, that's not okay. Because not just the right records going to the right partner, it's also sometimes field level data privacy. You are not allowed to share certain fields, and certain fields could be shared with partners in the interest. So here, a tool that keeps people safe and not puts them out at risk, that would be great. Second is, we are looking at the the partnering professional finally getting their due, and a partner first tool built from that point of view. You don't have to live in CRM, which is a salesperson's tool. You don't have to live in marketing automation software, because it could be a marketing first point of view. Here, in a partnering first point of view, processes begin in one company, end in another. And when that magic happens, work gets automated. And when you connect these processes, if data is consistent, it would be great, because your sales stages will change, your amounts will change, your status of a deal will change, your contacts will change. And having a dynamic system connecting companies creates that data consistency and solves that inconsistent data issue. And lastly, I believe that most partnering organizations are successful around a culture and mindset that is outward, not inward, that has got a higher team morale, because people are winning constantly, because they are collaborating, they're into new opportunities, working with one another. So I believe that co-selling solves these four key problems that we keep hearing. And as such, uh, around co-selling as well, we've seen that there is a complete ecosystem flywheel that is operating. So it starts with, if you're thinking about co-selling as the most important, or the way in which a joint revenue is built and established, I would encourage you to think a little bit broader across the entire life cycle. Where it really begins is with your joint solutions, so such as solutions built on Microsoft Azure. You have joint solutions built with Microsoft Dynamics and Teams now. And the idea here is that when you co-innovate with a partner to build a joint solution, it reduces the risks for the customer, it speeds up go lives and stuff like that. So co-innovation is the first leg of this ecosystem operating model. Now that you have got a good solution going, you need to co-market it. And the idea of co-marketing is not only utilizing your own resources, but also the partner's resources, and speaking in one voice, so that there is noise cancellation in the ecosystem and everybody's speaking with signal as opposed to noise. And the ability to actually have a shared calendar, have a space for joint leads collaboration. This really creates the momentum around the joint solution that you've built. And that feeds the co-selling process. And imagine if you're successful together, you can reinvest back into the partnership in terms of investments. And if you look at a successful ecosystem flywheel, it consists of these four practice or domain areas where co-sell can actually really be taken to the next level with co-innovation, co-market, and co-investments. So one of the other things that we've noticed is that when you think of co-selling, it's not just one-on-one. What we've found is when you plug into a network, the organizations are finding newer partnerships, more companies to actually do co-sell with. It's not just with the hyperscalers like Microsoft, but also with your allies in system integrators, your allies on the ISV partnerships that complete a complete solution stack. And as such, what we've seen is that a network emerges around co-sell. It's not a network where you are at the center of the network, it's the end customer at the center of the network. And because companies come together with a trusted partnership, they create value and abundance together, because the joint solution to a customer feels like signal. It feels like the exact antidote to the problem or the pain that they have, and it reduces the risk. And from a co-selling point of view, all the good things we talked about, faster time to value, faster deal cycle times, better win rates, and things like that. So as you build a co-sell program, one of my biggest advice to you guys would be to think about it of building it on a network, not on a private basis, or not on a one-to-one basis. Think of building an ecosystem where you're doing it together with your extended partner network, consisting of other ISVs, other SI partners in the mix. Here are some results that we have seen overall. Of course, this is aggregated for the entire WorkSpan network today. First and foremost, 47 billion in pipeline on co-sell. This is just orders of magnitude higher than what we had seen even 1 year or 2 years ago. This is growing close to 100% every quarter. And the reason is And what I'm seeing here is the reason is that people are finding value. This is the net new source of revenue that is coming in for companies. 18,000 leads. This is a huge number again. As you do marketing activities together, the usual strategy is to, hey, let's send the spreadsheet out to everybody who contributed to this event. But then what happens afterwards? And that collaboration, that closing the loop has always been hard. So sharing leads with partners, but with accountability and tracking and joint tracking actually to see whether we ended up with a co-sell deal or not. And that's a huge thing. And going all the way to developing consistent co-sell processes, having consistent solutions that you're pitching together. So overall 5,000 solutions on the WorkSpan platform. And we've also seen 1 billion in joint funds. So if you look at large co-sell partners like Cisco, for example, the entire Cisco network is putting their co-invest dollars on WorkSpan. They have a very successful co-sell program, including partner-to-partner co-sell program, where incentives are given based on success of co-sell. Similarly, VMware, Intel, there are a number of companies doing a joint MDF and partner incentive processes. And what's very interesting about the modern incentive process that we are seeing is that the older generation incentives were more focused on transactions, where you reward the individual transaction on success, for example, on deal reg. But now we are seeing the emergence of customer lifecycle incentives. What is unique about this is that the value is continuous. So when a specific co-sell deal, for example, happens, there's an incentive given to a partner. But then at the next step, when the adoption grows, another incentive is given. And when the renewal happens, another incentive is given. And sometimes there are incentives for other partners as well who are not the transacting partner. For example, if you are a partner who's driving implementations or migrations, you may not be directly involved in the deal itself, or may not be the ISV for it, but the services partner is stepping in to drive the adoption and migration, and as a result is eligible for some incentives. So what we are seeing is that when the ecosystem acts in concert, all the way from solution to co-marketing to co-selling, and then utilizing the incentives, the customer lifecycle journey of adoption of a cloud platform or a cloud infrastructure like Microsoft accelerates very, very rapidly because of the interconnected nature of these ecosystems. So a big call to action here is think about it as more as an ecosystem rather than an individual partnership. And within that, think about these 4 key processes: how you co-innovate together, how you co-market, how you co-sell, and how you co-invest. And in terms of talking about infrastructure, I'll just pick one example here. Traditionally, companies have looked at their own infrastructure, like their Salesforce system or their Microsoft Dynamics system as their CRM system. What WorkSpan has done is put a cloud native system in place where you can co-sell together. It's a shared workspace. It aligns your team and your partners' systems. So the partners are a co-equal stakeholder in this. Just as your system connects with data privacy and access controls and field level access controls specifically, similarly, the partner has complete control over what data is shared, how much is shared, and with whom it is shared, on which plans it is shared. So this kind of co-equal collaboration, where partners are equally in control of what they're doing, is what we are seeing is the gravy around, is the meat around, in fact, the co-sell process. And if you surround it with other processes like co-solutioning, co-marketing, and co-investments, it really makes co-sell shine. And specifically here, WorkSpan offers a key platform for co-sell with all hyperscale cloud partners, specifically Microsoft Partner Center, but also with AWS and Google, and not only with hyperscalers, but as I was saying before, if you join and take this network approach, you can also do it with large ISVs like SAP, Cisco, VMware, and others. So an extensive network approach so that you can enable co-sell at scale with ISVs, SIs, hyperscalers, all on a shared platform like this. And we believe that there are 5 key capabilities here that make this extraordinary. One is a business process that spans company boundaries. So may start in your company with your own Salesforce or your Dynamics system, but can end in another partner system, their Salesforce system, their Dynamic system, intermediated with WorkSpan. So this cross-company workflow. Second is this ecosystem data hub. So especially as marketing data gets a little bit contentious with privacy, what we have seen is partner data is much more curated, much more highly qualified, and your partner network will contribute 10x more data than what you have. And your data combined with partner data, which is your second party data, this it creates that insights that you really need to succeed in this ecosystem world. And the best part here is access control. You have access. It is your data. You can submit the data, you can withdraw the data. Companies like WorkSpan don't have access to this data. It is yours. It is you and your ecosystem's data model that is out there. And lastly, as we talked about, it's about the multi-party nature of these things. So today you may be collaborating one-on-one with one partner on co-sell. Where I see the market go in the future is multi-party co-sell, where there will be partner-to-partner collaboration between ISVs, hyperscalers, and SIs to drive end customer outcomes. And already we are seeing a number of partnerships move in that direction. So today it is about 10% of all co-sell, deals that we see. 90% is still bidirectional, but this is certainly emerging. And I talked through all these best practices already throughout the presentation, but I'll just signpost them here once again. One of the key shifts with co-sell and in general with the ecosystem movement in the last 2 or 3 years is changing the centricity. It's not you at the center of the network. It's really about the customer, the end customer. And if the end customer is at the center of the ecosystem, our industry is at a Copernican moment where it's about managing that customer lifecycle, and the entire partner network then organizes around it. And I think that shift is very interesting to see, and will result. So it's not just orchestrating, for example, your own partner program. It's about joining others. So doing yours, but also joining others. This kind of focused on customer lifecycle is a key best practice. Second one is to make co-sell repeatable. Think about joint solutions. And if you don't have an established practice around doing joint solutions with ISVs, with hyperscale partners, with services partners, your co-sell will not become repeatable. So think about that pre-step. Third is don't do episodic co-sell, which means that, hey, you do, and for every co-sell deal, you figure out what you share, who you share, how much you share. That process is not going to scale. Think about opportunity sharing and data sharing as a scalable business process. As such, figure out your data sharing strategy and frequency, and which fields you share, which ones you don't share. Do opportunity sharing at scale as a practice. Don't do it individually, partner by partner. It's you, it's the partner network. Have consistent policies so that it's not open for interpretation in the field by the individual partner manager. Keep them safe, essentially, and let them work with the partner network at scale. Next is establishing standard metrics. As companies have gone into co-sell, partner influenced revenue, ecosystem qualified leads, partner qualified opportunities, there are a lot of metrics in here. Just as in the last decade around marketing automation, we established the vocabulary around marketing qualified leads and MQLs and SQLs. Similarly, in this space, ecosystem qualified leads, ecosystem opportunities, ecosystem influenced revenue, these are new metrics. Standardize them, have your organizations report on them, and have them measure it actually. And what gets measured gets done. So co-sell will be wildly successful if you measure it. And the next point is drive accountability. Having a shared tool where you can actually see the joint book of business and drive cadence calls, that's exactly what is needed. Think of this more like dev work sprints. We need agile sprints and partnering. So every 2 weeks when you meet for the partner, think of the 2 weeks as an agile sprint where you've picked the joint accounts, you picked the joint opportunities, you made the mutual introductions, rinse and repeat, right? So think about those processes that are changing as a result of the tools that you're introducing, as a result of new metrics that you're introducing, and drive that accountability in the system. And then lastly, look out for this multi-partner pattern. And obviously, it's a stepping stone to a higher, order business process, but think of not just mutual, but also multi-partner as well. With these six, best practices, I want to open this up to you, Chip, back again. What a joy to share what WorkSpan has been doing with the ecosystem team members here.
Muted. Okay, that was fantastic. Really appreciate you sharing sharing those. And we did actually have several questions that came in during the session. So let's go to Brett first. So Brett asks, at times marketing teams are too occupied with identifying the right partner teams and tactics and managing the manual processes. Can you cite an example of co-marketing use case with WorkSpan?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take some real customer examples. So when you look at Intel, for example, if you've heard of Intel Inside, you can imagine how they co-partner, do drive joint marketing activities with their partner network. Sharing leads from their Salesforce system, for example, needs to be a scalable process. So after a joint marketing activity, they streamline sharing joint leads through WorkSpan. And especially if leads are coming from their marketplace. If a solution is already identified, hand over the lead to the partner, for example. So either through activities that two partners do, or third-party agencies do, or through marketplace, leads are consistently handed off to partners with a velocity where they accept, and within X days, if it's not accepted, it goes into a shared pool and things like that. So those are examples by which companies can actually drive joint marketing activities, and from those activities share leads and manage the process to co-sell in a much more scalable way. There are also more advanced ones. For example, at SAP, we are doing a fair trade distribution of leads. So if a marketing lead is identified, but not exactly sure which partner should get it, what you could also do is establish a fair trade rule based on competencies, and based on those competencies, the partners are picked at random and assign those leads. And then there are companies that are focused on activity planning, so having a joint calendar of activities to see when is what activity coming in. So Microsoft itself with its GSI network is a good example of that. So when you think of Microsoft Wipro as a relationship, for example, having a shared marketing calendar is really critical, because they are driving joint activities to drive dynamic sales together, for example. And this is another example of where joint marketing fits in.
Great. Got actually a few more questions. So from Amalik, ease of doing business is a foundation of trust, which is challenging to build value proposition and confidence. And if the service offering is weak, how does one strengthen the foundation in a current landscape of uncertainty? Really good question.
Wow. Yeah, trust is earned. I think Dan shared this with me. Dan is an excellent speaker who's coming on next. He said, trust is shared, is one, drop by drop, but lost in buckets. So my view is that, start in a simple way. You, as you share more opportunities together, and your teams are working together across more and more, you're building that drop by drop, trust in the larger companies coming together with their employees trusting one another on co-sell as a business process, and you can measure it. And that's the key point here. Once you add the number of opportunities, the joint pipeline, the stakes get bigger and bigger, the trust gets bigger and bigger. And I think that's key, because you now have a measurable way to see whether you are more trusted or less trusted, and that's key.
Another good question. This is a long one. A good question from Karam. Can you bring more light to the topic where WorkSpan adds value and benefit with co-sell module or different modules? If we have an already existing infrastructure with CRM and partner portals for opportunity sharing and joint project management, and for joint sales approach to the end customer.
Yeah, two things. Yes, you can build it yourself and grow your Salesforce or your Microsoft Dynamics system to kind of add on and custom build these things over a period of time and have partners kind of join in. But then in that case, you're in the business of running, a private airport, if you will, where you're trying to shuttle in traffic, and you're acting as the air traffic controller to bring partners to your process, and hence, it can scale, but scale only so much. And the other piece that's very interesting is that now CoSell has become packaged with WorkSpan. We have a connector for Salesforce, for Dynamics, and others. All you have to do is, for example, go to Salesforce App Exchange and connect, download this app, and it connects to your Salesforce system. You can similarly get a connector for Dynamics. And what's really interesting is that this connects now on the other end with Microsoft Partner Center, with ACE or with SAP or with other ISV applications, with SIs like Wipro, for example, or Deloitte. And this is magical because you did not have to worry about the connection at the other end, right? You had to worry about just adding the connector to your CRM. So then it becomes like a hub as opposed to a private airport, because those other airlines that are flying into your place, they have their own connections to their own CRM. So when you think about a business process starting in your company and ending in another company with their CRM system, this is the magic of WorkSpan. So I would encourage you to look at a co-sell process as a two-sided process, not just your CRM and your portal. Think of this as your CRM, but also the other company's CRM in the process. And if you give them the flexibility to add their connection, which you won't be able to do it with your own CRM process. For example, the process that you may have established may not give the partner the flexibility to add their CRM to connection to it. So we have thought through things like that in a multi-network way, and that's the value that we add on CoSell.
Excellent. We have actually another question from Carolyn, but I think it's probably better answered by Dan. So because it's about the Microsoft and tiers and things like that. So I'll keep this up here, and we'll bring that question back when we have Dan back in. So Amit, fantastic.